As winter approaches and we get closer and closer to fielding games on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field and the cold, crisp Lake Michigan air flowing through Soldier Field. Who cares about the Bears? They suck!
Absolutely horrendous. We got a lot to rail on between the ineptitude on the field, the stupidity of the head coach, and the piss poor decision by our general manager.
By the way, if you hadn't figured it out by now, this is Sports Frenzy 2.0, your weekly dose of politically incorrect sports commentary. He is a conquistador, Dave Heights.
He's the maestro, Kevin Crane.
October the 4th, 2023, hitting tomorrow morning, October the 5th. And yes, Dave is right. We have got a lot to talk about with the Bears. This is going to be a team that, if they were smart, which we all know is a dubious claim, they would clean house after this awful season if they indeed end up getting the top 2 picks, which they are right now projected to get.
Yeah, and it's not looking to the positive where they're going to get out of the cellar anytime soon. Yes, against probably one of the worst defenses. They're even worse than the Broncos, the Bears, for giving up a 21-point lead. Unforgivable on that front. And that falls on head coach / defensive coordinator Eberflus.
I was going to say / walking dead man.
That too. But at least the offense finally showed some signs of life where you could see what they could do. But why, for God's name, in the second half did you take your foot off the gas? Why did you go milk toast in a shell? This is playing the Broncos. You attack, attack, attack. In today's NFL, that's how you have to play the game. You cannot go into a shell.
And then he made the fateful decision, right, late in the game to try to run the clock out. Went for the fourth down play.
What
failed.
Are you doing out of the damn shotgun? What in God's name was that decision?
Gave the ball right back to the Broncos, who could drive down and kick the game-winning field goal.
Absolutely ridiculous. Then, to make more embarrassing news, Coach Eberflus, after the game, trying to address questions about the absence of Chase Claypool not being with the team. They asked, was he told to stay home or was it his choice? And Eberflus was trying to skirt around it and then came out and said, well, it was his choice. Then Monday has to backtrack and say, well, no, we did tell him that he needed to stay home, that he wasn't going to be around the team, and he's not going to be for this week either. Where the hell was the discussion with your general manager on what to say? You sounded like a complete babbling moron in front of the press after the game, and then you still sounded even worse on Monday trying to talk around why you didn't tell the truth to begin with.
Can I ask you something? It's kind of a tangent based on what you just said. In this day and age, and we have been in this quote-unquote day and age for 20 years at least now, with the cell phones, with the media,
right,
everything everywhere, TikTok, YouTube, why is it that we can't seem to get our head coaches or our players in professional sports more media savvy? It doesn't mean that, though I've got a podcast like Kevin Durant. No, Kevin Durant curses and swears like a sailor on his podcast.
Worse than we do.
Where is the media savvy? Shouldn't these players and coaches by now be able to talk in front of microphones and cell phones and say something coherent and smart, or at least toe the company line in a literate way instead of idiocy like this?
Well, you have to be able to speak in order to sound semi-intelligent. You have to be able to put two thoughts together, and thus far, Eberflus has been unable to do it.
Because
you talk about the players. Monday, coming home from work, listening to the score out of Chicago, they played that disaster from Eberflus, followed up by questions with Cole Kmet, talking about Claypool.
Who had his best game probably as a Bear.
Yeah. And so they asked Kmet about, Claypool, and said, well, we've been teammates back in college, and we chat and everything, and I've been talking to him, and there's kind of addressed that, sometimes it's up to individuals. They have to make their own decisions. You can talk to people, but ultimately it's the responsibility of the individual. Kmet handled it beautifully, intelligently.
Which he should, because he just got a huge contract from the Bears, showing that they believe in him.
Yeah, and so he's
trying to be a leader.
Trying to be the leader, addressing it, and he sounds more of a leader than the head coach.
The corpse of Pee Wee Herman is more of a leader than the head coach.
But
we've been here and done that before, as we've talked about in the past with Mark Trestman.
Yeah. And now everybody's, the Bears need to fire Eberflus. Yeah, well, they can't mid-season. One, he's also their defensive coordinator. You can't fill that position right now mid-season. Where the hell are you going to find a head coach as well? You can't. Nobody's available.
Yeah.
You're stuck through the entire season. So just get this mid-season firing out of your heads as Bears fans.
And what you've got to hope for, I hate to say it, is a complete and total tankathon. And then you get the top two picks. You clean house is the key part. And I'm sorry, I know the GM has only been here a short period of time, but he has been a disaster. He
brought Claypool in.
He's worse than Poles.
Pace.
Sorry.
Poles is worse than Pace.
Yes.
Poles is the idiot who brought Claypool in without doing due diligence.
Giving up a high second, low first pick for him.
Yep. He's the one who brought Eberflus in. How is he not communicating with Eberflus? How are they not on the same page in the communications? And where the hell is Poles in all of this? He should be out there front and center addressing all of this stuff. But he leaves it to the babbling baboon.
Yeah, so the only way you are going to convince Caleb Williams to come to the Bears is you're going to have to clean house the second the whistle blows in the final regular season game for the Bears. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to convince him to not pull an Eli Manning, to not pull a John Elway, and to say, I'm not going to that goddamn team. They're a train wreck.
Yeah.
The McCaskies have got to step up for once in their goddamn lives as Bears owners and shell out money to bring in a legitimate coaching staff and a legitimate general manager.
What it comes down to is Kevin Warren, as your new president of football operations, needs to take control and do the right thing. He was hired by the McCaskies to run the football team. And by God, he better. Everything that's happening.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be the next in line to take over the NFL whenever Goodell retires.
Yeah.
Is what I've heard.
So if he wants to do that, this is his time to turn around a founding franchise and put it back up to the top.
And I know you meant to say founding, but I could also say floundering. Yeah.
Yeah. Floundering, take your pick.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's nothing there. Now, if you want Caleb Williams, after you clean house, do you try and drag Lincoln Riley in?
I would take Lincoln Riley. That would be a significant hire. Now, I don't want to bring Lincoln Riley in just because of his connection to Caleb Williams. You go down that road, it gets a little bit tricky.
Yes, it does.
We've seen things like this before with the Arizona Cardinals, and it blows up in your face.
It does not always work well.
If you look at the available head coaches out there, is there a bigger, better name if he wants to come here with his quarterback than Lincoln Riley?
It's a thought.
Yep. Because I'm getting sick and tired of this. We're going to get the next hot coordinator or the next hot coordinator like Matt Eberflus.
Yeah. I still want to know what the hell they saw in the Colts defense to think Eberflus had a chance to be a head coach.
It's a flaw in the interview process. How did that guy interview this well to get this job?
When you hear what a bumbling baboon he is.
Jesus Christ.
That's my new nickname for him, the bumbling baboon.
Why couldn't we have gotten Eric Bieniemy? Eric Bieniemy, if he interviews awful, I don't care. At least he's got a track record.
Yeah, he's showing some results.
Of results.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right, we got to let the Bears stuff go.
Thank you. Let it go.
Thank you for indulging us. Other NFL headlines. You could have called the last weekend in the NFL sack weekend. Because number one, former Bear, Khalil Mack, puts up 6 sacks for the Chargers.
Yes, and in one game. I don't think
one short of the record. One short of Derek Thomas's record.
He hasn't had 6 sacks in the last 3 seasons combined.
That's why that Chargers defense, for all the talent they have, is such a letdown. You've got the other Bosa brother.
Yeah.
You've got Derwin James, supposedly one of the best secondary men in the league, and Khalil Mack, and you basically let up 25, 30 points a game. And
that's unacceptable.
Justin Herbert's got to throw the ball all the time to try to come back.
Yeah, that's completely unacceptable from that defense. There's no way they should be giving up that much.
You know what it is? Coaching.
Yes.
We've got the worst, but
it's
poor old Justin Herbert stuck with probably
the second
or
worst.
third best. Third worst, yeah. All right. And then the other big one. Again, I revel in the misery of the New York fan, the New York sports fan. Your baseball teams both suck this year, and now your football teams both suck. Monday night was a debacle. 24-3. The Seahawks beat the Giants. 11 sacks on Daniel Jones. 11 sacks.
And
this is not the Legion of Boom anymore.
No, it's not. And the worst one was in the shotgun. As soon as the ball was snapped, as soon as he got it, he was leveled. How bad is that offensive line?
Yeah, they had a couple guys out with injuries, but still, no excuse.
2 guys that went out in the first quarter on the tush push.
Yeah. And
absolutely
again, we have been, for the last couple years, singing his praises and realizing that maybe we have overlooked Pete Carroll as one of the better coaches of all time.
Yeah.
Because he's won the college championship, he's won the Super Bowl, and he's got Geno Smith for the second year in a row playing well. He's got that team humming again. They might not win the division because there's a roadblock there called the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
But
at least they're consistent. They're always in contention.
Yes. They're like the Steelers. Maybe not this year.
No.
Steelers might be looking at an abysmal year that will break their long streak of 500 or better records. But
yeah, they may have missed on their quarterback.
After all that preseason hype, everybody's saying, oh, Pickett to Pickens is going to work. Thank you for drafting
Yeah.
George Pickens, by the way.
Who's been riding the bench.
Of course, Sunday Night Football, the other New York team, valiant effort. I will give them that. A valiant effort, and Zach Wilson looked like he had confidence and could actually possibly maybe play professional football. But the Chiefs still beat the Jets. I'm not impressed with the Chiefs.
Not impressive. They've not looked dominant.
And what have we been saying for the last 2 or 3 years? The big contract Patrick Mahomes signed
is a detriment to the rest of the team.
Yeah, between him and Kelsey, and then, of course, this year they re-signed at the last minute Chris Jones on defense. That's a lot of money tied up in 3 players. So they cannot pay their running backs. They cannot pay their wide receivers like other teams can.
Their defensive backs.
So they're
lines.
winning. And again, kudos to Andy Reid as well. He is another all-time great coach. But I don't know if this team is good enough to get all the way to the Super Bowl again. I don't know if this is dynasty level.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there are a few chinks in the armor for them. But, of course, the main story was, for the second week in a row, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Oh, they didn't leave together like last week. Oh, my God.
Blah, blah,
and
blah,
Taylor
blah,
Swift has got Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and Hugh Jackman. So Deadpool and Wolverine are up in the luxury box with her.
Well, of course they're going to go. Who wouldn't go take the free ride?
Yeah, I know.
But stop showing her and her entourage. Focus on the damn game. Ugh. Frustrating as hell.
And then, of course, the saga with the Indianapolis Colts of Jonathan Taylor continues as now. Is he coming off the PUP list? Is he going to rejoin the team? What impact will he be able to have on a big game for them this weekend, as they've been playing fairly well early on here?
Yep. I don't know that you rush him on this. I think you got to give him another week of practice.
Yeah, Zach Moss has been playing okay. Yeah. This is backup, so.
Yeah, you got to get Taylor back into game condition.
But he's got to be looking at what's going on with these other running backs around the league.
And thinking, oh, shit, what am I doing?
Yeah, he's going, fuck you very much, Saquon Barkley. Fuck you very much, Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, I've heard New York media talking about, they don't even think he wants to play anymore.
Doesn't look like it, does it?
Because Breece Hall's getting most of the snaps because he's waiting for his contract to come up so he can cash in and then not run and not play. Austin Eckler's been hurt. Saquon Barkley's been hurt. And you wonder why
you're
teams
not getting that kind of money at running back anymore. Yeah. These guys, running backs are not as durable as they used to be.
There are a couple who have the drive, who are earning their money. That would be one.
Mr. Henry.
And Mr. McCaffrey.
And Mr.
He has turned it around. I know, knock on wood, but he has looked very, very good the last year and a half.
Yes, he has managed to keep himself on the field.
Yes, and Mr. Derrick Henry is still a beast.
Yes,
but outside of that,
he is.
Give me another running back who you can depend on in the NFL. I don't think there are any others.
No, they've all been dinged up to one extent or
another.
And like
I said, Jonathan Taylor is playing the game the wrong way. He needs to go out there and be a beast like McCaffrey and like Henry and not look at Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley bitching and pissing and moaning and holding out and then getting marginally decent money for 1 year and then failing miserably.
Because, look, Zeke Elliott got paid and he disappeared.
There you go. Yep, great example. He might have been the first of this current wave.
Yeah, to get the big contract and then not put up decline every year since.
Yep. Now, I meant to bring this up last week, and we know it's been brewing, it's been coming, but the numbers, at least through week 3, are pathetic. Record number of kickoffs, 81% of kickoffs are touchbacks, which is a record pace. And again, they wanted to legislate this out of the game, and they're doing a wonderful fucking job of doing it. But one of the most exciting plays in the game is going to go away.
I told you what they need to do. On the kickoff, if it goes through the uprights, 2 points.
Oh, I always like that idea. Always like that idea.
If you're going to try and take the returns out of the game, they get it through the uprights, 2 points, start them at the 35.
Yep. I agree completely. I think that's a brilliant idea.
So instead of starting them at the 20, start them at the 35 if they get it through and get the 2 points. That way, it makes it a little more exciting.
And I know you've been waiting for this, Dave. Because you and I, we love watching shows and interviews about football and football players, right? Because we got nothing else to do with our lives, after watching the games themselves.
Yeah, so we want to watch Pat McAfee's Aaron Rodgers bio.
Right. Or a scripted TV series in the works about one Tom Brady.
No, we don't need that crap.
Who will play Tom Brady? Who will play Tom?
Nobody cares. It's a crap idea.
Football is great because the game itself is great. Don't give us fictional. How great did that Kurt Warner movie do a year or two ago with Shazam? Not very well.
Yeah.
Not very well. All right,
This is why we wanted the writers' strike to continue, because they're idiots who have no good ideas. And there'll be more on that in the weekend edition.
Yeah. Hopefully the actors will stay out on strike for a while. Maybe we'll at least get that part of it. All right, recapping last week's games real quick. Nice showing by the Lions. Nice. Lions on Thursday Night Football dismantle the Packers 34-20. So they are officially for real. But again, who beat them in Detroit? The Seahawks.
There you go.
Keep that in mind. The Falcons are not for real. The Falcons are a sham because the Jaguars still don't look as good as they should be. But in London, the Jaguars' second home,
yeah,
they pretty much handled the Falcons 23-7. Desmond Ridder is not an NFL quarterback. So the Bears do not have the worst quarterback in the NFL.
No, they do not.
The Bills. I told you this was going to happen. I told you. 70 points, that's a letdown waiting to happen. And it did happen.
And the defense totally disappeared.
Bills beat the Dolphins in Orchard Park 48-20.
I was very disappointed in the ineptitude of the Dolphins defense. They completely disappeared.
And we thought at the beginning of the season that they had both sides of the ball fixed.
Yeah.
All it was
obviously
keeping Tua healthy.
Not. The defense still has some questions.
We've talked about the Broncos, Bears, the Browns. We did not see this coming with the Deshaun Watson injury, putting in an inexperienced quarterback against the Ravens. I mean, if we'd known that, we never would have picked the Browns.
Exactly.
Ravens win 28-3 in Cleveland.
And we know the Browns defense is pretty good, but they were on the field all damn day.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you do have to have concerns about the Bengals.
Big time.
Thought they would put up a better fight against what I still think, despite our praise of Derrick Henry, is a mediocre team. Titans 27-3. Joe Burrow, is he ever going to be right this year? Is he ever going to be healthy with that calf?
T. Higgins is now out.
Yeah, so... But this team even should be able to sustain the loss of T. Higgins. They still have Joe Mixon. They still have Jamar Chase.
When are we going to see them put it together?
Maybe this week.
Maybe.
But yeah, the Titans go up and down, back and forth. Don't know what to expect. Schizophrenic from week to week. Rams and the Colts down in Indy ended up being a really good game. Rams jump out to a big lead. The Colts come all the way back.
Force overtime.
But the Rams win in overtime. But both teams, I think, have something to be proud of from this game going forward. Anthony Richardson looks like the real deal, and we will talk more about C.J. Stroud in a little bit. Buccaneers! The Tampa Bay Buccaneers! At least we have the Dolphins for you
and the Buccaneers for me. You.
How about the Tampa Bay? How about the resurgence of Baker Mayfield?
He is doing what he needs to do to win. He's not trying to overpower anything. He's playing within himself.
And, of course, everybody thought the Buccaneers were going to be one of those teams in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. That ain't happening now.
No.
They're already 3-1 atop the NFC South. I don't think the Saints look good at all.
Done.
Carr's got that injury with the shoulder. They got a bad head coach.
Yeah, it's not looking good in New Orleans.
And then we talked about the debacle Monday night with the Seahawks. 11 sacks against the Giants. So let's move on to Week 5.
As we get started, there will be spillage. You know it's coming.
That's your Uncle Dave's disclaimer every week here in the fall. And, of course, Thursday night, October the 5th, has got to be the Bears.
Has to be. Going out to Washington to take on the Commanders. Does anybody really have any faith in the Bears this week? Oh, yeah, that would be Doug. Doug.
Doug's the only one out of the 7 panelists with their picks in so far. Everybody else, Washington can put up some points, and I think that's all you need to say.
Yeah.
The Bears have got to run into a completely and totally inept team on both sides of the ball, which I thought was going to happen last week, even though I picked the Broncos. That was their best shot at winning a game.
It was.
I truly believe that.
Yeah, they should have, but horrible coaching decisions down the stretch.
And do you think
sealed their fate.
Do you think Chico is going to let up the gas on the Bears?
Hell no.
No. Commanders for everybody but Doug. Sunday, London game again. Now, is it an advantage for the Jaguars to get to stay in London for 2 weeks?
It could be, but they're playing the Bills.
Now, technically, this is a Bills home game, but still, the Jaguars get to stay there for 2 weeks.
I call foul on that one. That is absolute crap.
And the Jaguars are already talking about spending hundreds of millions of dollars to revamp their stadium. So why are we still acting like the Jaguars are going to move overseas? That needs to be stopped. That talk needs to be stopped.
Just end it. The Jaguars need to stop being the team to play in London all the damn time.
Right. Despite the fact it's easy travel for them as opposed to a team like Seattle or somebody on the West Coast.
Right.
That being said, the Bills, after a very shaky week 1, which a lot of us think was still week 4 of the preseason, Bills have caught on fire. Josh Allen looks MVP caliber.
Yep, they're rolling. Definitely Bills across the board.
All right, last game before we do spillage. The Texans, I did not expect the Texans to look this good this early with D'Amico Ryans as their head coach and C.J. Stroud as their quarterback.
Yeah,
but damn, they look good.
They are gelling much better than expected.
Yes, and we mentioned earlier the Falcons do not look good. Desmond Ridder does not look good, despite the fact Bijan Robinson does look like a stud young running back. Kyle Pitts, they're already talking about trading him. Remember a couple years ago, top level pick, first round pick, already going to cut bait on him. I like the Texans a lot in this game.
The Texans definitely.
I don't care if it's in Atlanta. Sam is obsessed with the Falcons. He did this last week too. He's obsessed with the Falcons. He thinks the Falcons are good and they're going to turn it around. It bit him on the ass last week.
And I think it will again this week. Texans for everybody except for Sam at this point of those that we have.
So that will do it for segment 1. We will give you the rest of our pro picks and then get into college football.
Yep. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Patrick. not Pat, Mahomes, Super Bowl champion and MVP. And when I'm not trying to keep my wife and brother in line, I'm listening to Sports Frenzy on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Stitcher, Amazon, and Audible. Brittany, come on, stop posting on Twitter. Jackson, will you please get off TikTok? Man, it's times like these I really miss doing stupid, silly State Farm ads with Coach Reed.
All right, segment 2, Spillage on Sports Frenzy 2.0 here on October 4th. He's the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And along with the Conquistador Dave Height, we are getting ready to finish up the pro picks and get you into college football. But first,
all this happens on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
Otherwise, of course, known as iHeartRadio. And, of course, don't forget to check out the Facebook page where you can find all of our picks. Right now, baseball's done. We will talk about that in a little bit, who won our Morningwood Championship. But we still got NASCAR for another month. And we, of course, still have football picks all the way through into January and February. So now we move on with the rest of our picks for NFL Week 5. The Titans, as we talked about in the last segment, up and down. Playing the Colts, also a little bit up and down, but I like what I've seen from Anthony Richardson. If he goes down, you bring in Gardner Minshew, the best backup quarterback in the league. I do not trust the Titans on the road. I do not trust Ryan Tannehill. There's only so much Derrick Henry can do. I take the Colts.
Absolutely. The Colts at home. The Titans feed off the home crowd and their home turf. But, yeah, Colts across the board for the 7, except for Doug taking the Titans.
All right, this one kind of shocks me with how many people went with the visiting team, because let's talk about the Saints at the Patriots. Now, the media this week has been all over Bill Belichick saying, is it time for Robert Kraft to fire Bill Belichick? Have you seen the brutal schedule the Patriots started off with? I mean, brutal schedule.
I would not have wanted that schedule.
I am not saying the Patriots are a great team.
But they're a hell of a lot better than the Saints.
Yes. The Saints have looked abysmal. There's no way in hell I'm taking the Saints in this game. Patriots, especially when you feed into Belichick, his ego, when you start talking about should he be fired.
Yeah, that's when he's going to come up with something. And at home, it's the Patriots for you, me, Sam, and Aaron. The Saints for the Big Blue W, Nick and Doug.
Now, this one, even though the point spread is only 4, with what I'm hearing out of Steelers camp, even though they're at home, with all the injuries, Pickett might not
on
play.
His gimpy knee.
Yep. The Ravens at the Steelers. This is a testament. We talked about Pete Carroll and how much we underestimate Pete Carroll. How about giving some love to John Harbaugh?
Oh, absolutely.
That man can take crap and turn it into a piece of art. He is by far one of the top 3 or 4 coaches in the NFL. He has, again, got the Ravens perfectly situated. Well. Yeah, they're not destroying people. I still don't believe in Lamar Jackson, but he's got no running. Again, the running back situation is a train wreck.
Yeah.
Losing J.K. Dobbins before the season even starts, but he is somehow making it work. And I believe against a banged-up Steelers team, which could, again, be the first time Mike Tomlin does not get to 500 in a long, long time.
Yep.
Ravens
for all 7 of us so far. Eagles going out to play the Rams. Yeah. Does anybody think the Rams are going to beat the Eagles?
Now, let me just point something out. We've got all 7 picks in for the Eagles, but let me just point 2 things out.
The
Number
Eagles
1,
have not been playing well.
and that's good, number 1. Number 2, you, the man who's always railing about, I don't like it when an East Coast team has to travel to the West Coast.
No, it's the West Coast going to the East Coast that's usually the issue.
Pooey. You always do it both ways.
Not always. Usually it's the West going East.
To me, this is kind of the same scenario with a couple of these other teams that have gotten off to slower starts. Eventually, the Eagles are going to pick up the pace and prove to be one of the 2 best teams in the NFC. And I think the Rams are playing much better than we expected.
They are.
I don't know if Cooper Kupp's going to be ready this week or not, but they've got Puka Nacua, record-setting rookie. So they don't need him.
No, they don't. They're fine without him.
Yep. But still, Eagles across the board. The game of faith. Do you believe in Joe Burrow? Do you believe in Joe Mixon? Do you
believe in Joe?
I do. At some point, he's got to get better. Either that or they got to shut him down. They have got to get better. The Cardinals have been playing exceptional for what they were expected to be.
They are, and they're better at home.
And good for them to say, Kyler Murray ain't coming back anytime
soon.
We
don't need you. Just take your time. We're fine without you. We don't need the distractions.
Josh Dobbs playing very well at quarterback. They still got James Conner.
Yep.
Arguably playing better football with Arizona than he did initially with Pittsburgh years ago.
Yeah.
That being said, it's a dangerous game for the Bengals. East Coast team traveling west. I am going to give the Bengals one more shot here. I'm taking the Bengals.
Burrow's not there yet. He's hurting them more now. And I don't know if that Bengals defense can do much more.
It's another example, like you talked about earlier. The defense is on the field too much because the offense cannot move the ball.
They cannot do anything. I'm taking the home team, the Cardinals, along with the Big Blue W and Nick.
And I have got the Bengals along with Sam and Doug and Aaron.
All right.
This is an interesting game. Very interesting game.
Almost a battle of ineptitude. But
two very disappointing teams this year.
Yes, the Jets go out to take on the Broncos. The Jets' defense is what is going to make the difference in this game.
I agree, and I also think that Zach Wilson got a lot of confidence from his performance against the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah. Above average defense, and now you're going against one of the worst defenses in the league in Denver.
So you and I agree. We bring in Doug and Aaron with us. Sam and Bill.
Nick and Aaron.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. And then Doug is taking the Broncos with Sam and Bill.
Yep. And we move on. Chiefs go to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Yeah, this is an easy one. Chiefs across the board.
Yes, but would it shock you if the Vikings somehow pulled off an upset? We talked about...
It would have to be fluky.
If Justin Jefferson goes off for like 13 catches for 200 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns.
But you still have Cousins who's going to throw the pick six to take it all away.
No, I think the problem is more the defense. The Vikings defense will not. This might be a get-right game for the Chiefs offense.
It could be. We will see. I just don't have any faith in the Vikings.
Twin Cities, get ready for your anti-hero, Taylor Swift.
That distraction is going to have to end at some point, right?
Well, it's like Deion Sanders with the Colorado Buffaloes. It's going to burn out because that flame is burning too hot. There's too much focus on it, and eventually it will just burn out and burn out fast, burn out quickly.
All
big,
right.
big, huge game in the NFC. Monstrous
Good
game.
Lord, this is...
Cowboys going out to Santa Clara to play the 49ers. Now, I'm not picking against the 49ers until they show me a flaw.
Yeah, and I have not seen a flaw out of the 49ers. As good as Dallas's defense can be, they were shown up by the frickin' Cardinals. And the Niners are taking care of everybody so far.
Yep. Yeah, and I think this is the type of game that Kyle Shanahan, another underrated coach, will get his team up for. I doubt they're a professional team. Those players, you never hear them talk trash. You never hear them, curse and swear all over on their podcast. They are a focused professional football team. That's why it's going to be them and the Eagles, like everybody predicted once the NFC gets boiled down in January.
Yep.
Yeah, the Cowboys, as good as they look this year to a point.
A point.
Like you said, you pointed to the perfect example.
Offense still is not right.
And they lost to the Cardinals. So they are already showing chinks in their armor. Everybody except the Big Blue W, our leader in our football picks right now.
It's a chance to get one back on him for everybody here.
He's taking Dallas for the upset. And then finally, Monday Night Football, October the 9th. I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Raiders.
Does it really matter?
I got to believe this is the last year for Josh McDaniel.
He is not head coach material.
No. And Jordan Love has been a little erratic, but you got to give him some time.
He's serviceable.
You got to give him some time to learn. Now that he is the man in Green Bay, even on the road. Packers for everybody except
for Aaron.
He goes with LV. So there you go, kids. The pros are over, done for another week, but we move on to college football.
Yep. Some headlines coming out of the NCAA office this week. We've got some rule changes coming up. They are dropping the 25-player limit on how many players you can add for a year. So with the transfer portal devastating teams, you're not able to get your full complement. So now it's all based on the number of scholarships you have on hand on how many players you can add, which makes total sense.
Also,
I like that.
With the imminent demise of the Pac-12, they also announced there will be no changes to the upcoming 12-team playoff format yet.
Yet. They want to see how it shakes down. And then speaking of the transfer portal earlier, across all college sports, the portal window has been shrunk from 60 days down to 45. They wanted to cut it to 30, but that was not approved, so the compromise at 45 hit. So for college football, actually, I think it will be the first 30 days after the season ends, after conference championships are over, and then there'll be 15 days in the spring during spring practices.
Then, of course, the teams that we root for, the Miami Hurricanes, trying to get ready for the second half of the season, take a break. Up to number 17 in the AP poll. Notre Dame at number 10 now after Duke gave them a run. Duke gave them a run for their money.
They did, and penalties kicked Notre Dame's ass. They were brutal.
And again, I don't think they tackle very well.
They do not tackle well
because I watched a decent
all.
chunk of that game. But they did end up beating number 17 Duke last weekend, 21-14. Now they play another ranked opponent.
Third in a row, going to be 4 in a row next weekend when they go up against USC.
Yep. Now, of course, as we've always talked about, ridiculous to rank teams before the season. So nobody thought Duke or Louisville would be ranked. So that's kind of how this is all played out for Notre Dame. So the schedule looks a lot tougher now than it did before the season started. But they're doing well. They're holding up. I'm not sure about this whole Sam Hartman first-round draft pick talk.
No, things are. He looked a little shaky the last couple weeks. Now, could it be the familiarity with the teams that he's played the last 2 weeks?
And again this week, too.
And coming up again this week. So it's teams that have seen him for what, coming up on the 4th year in a row?
Yep. Very good point. Very good point. All right, with the NCAA, we'll go through last week's games, but it's not the same as with the NFL, so we'll probably skip over the games that really don't have a major impact on the postseason.
Yeah.
So we did talk about Louisville, of course. They go into North Carolina State, beat the Wolfpack, so that got them into the top 25, 13-10. You called a defensive game. It just
went the wrong way.
Yep.
I did not think Louisville had that stout of a defense.
And the other big game last Friday night, number 10 Utah at number 19 Oregon State.
Wow.
I won't say I told you so, but I told you so.
I wouldn't have been surprised.
Oregon State beats Utah 21-7.
What surprised me is how they beat them. I thought it was going to be closer.
With Utah, you can go with not having your starting quarterback.
Right.
Cam Rising still out. And then we move on to Saturday. Clemson maybe got back on track, beating up on Syracuse. I don't know if that's a huge deal.
That's not a big deal.
Same thing with Texas A&M at Arkansas. The big shocker on Saturday.
Upset.
Kentucky. I think it's a big upset.
It's a big
especially
upset.
When you look at the score.
Yeah. 33-14. Kentucky rolls Florida.
Now, we said at the start of the season, Florida has not been trustworthy for quite a few years.
Yeah. And this is another year.
Yep. And then Brian Kelly, once again,
shits the bed.
As Lane Kiffin, you called this one.
Yep.
Lane Kiffin, 55-49, Mississippi beats LSU. So much for me being an idiot and thinking LSU would make the Final Four.
You never know.
And they've got another tough game this week. We talked about Notre Dame Duke. So that'll do it for the recap of Week 5. Let's move on to Week 6.
All right.
And we've got a lot of good games this week. A lot
of really good games. Number 12, Oklahoma at number 3, Texas. This should be a dandy of a game. Texas has had the tougher schedule to this point and have handled things well. Oklahoma's kind of eased their way along to this point.
I agree. And everybody else agrees.
Battle-tested Texas for everybody.
Yeah, everybody takes Texas across the board. Then we've got the floundering number 23 LSU Tigers going into play number 21 Missouri.
Yep. This is a must-win game for Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers.
Everybody agrees LSU across the board. Of the 7 of our 8 panelists who've got their picks in, now here we get some dissension. Number 13, Washington State at Chip Kelly's UCLA Bruins.
I like Washington State. I just think this one is ripe for an upset.
Well, Sam and Bill agree with you. I have got Nick and Doug and Aaron on my side. I was so impressed with that battle with Oregon State and Washington State. There were no losers. You're all winners. You're all winners.
Yeah.
And I'm carrying that over. Washington State for me. Number 11, Alabama, going into play, can I say the desperate Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M? College Station, right?
Yep.
So I do not like what I have seen from Alabama this year. I do not like it at all. And even though Jimbo lost to a superior Miami Hurricanes team,
he's still battling for his career. They have
looked fairly good here. They beat up on Arkansas on the road last week.
Everybody beats up on Arkansas.
I think this is an upset. I think just like we've seen with Clemson, just like we've seen with LSU, these big-time head coaches, these big-time programs are vulnerable. God help me, Jimbo Fisher will win this game.
Jimbo got him last year.
And that was on the road, right?
And on the road, and Saban is not going to go down twice.
I don't think they're good enough. And of course, Island boy.
There you go.
I am on an island. Everybody else taking Alabama. I am on Aggie Island. Interesting Big Ten matchup. Purdue at Iowa.
Iowa lost their quarterback to his ACL. It might be better for them.
I knew you were going to say that because it's such a pitiful offense they've had over the last few years.
Yeah, they can't get any worse. And Purdue is not impressive.
I think they've played okay this year.
They've been okay, but home team in this one for me, Sam and Doug and Bill.
Yep, and I've got Boilermakers on my side with Nick and with Aaron. This is another perplexing one. UCF, of course, now in the Big 12, going in to play the Kansas Jayhawks at Kansas. And everybody initially, the first few picks I got in, seemed enamored with UCF. I'm like, number one, they still seem like they're getting used to the travel, getting used to being in the Big 12. And
Yeah.
Kansas has not had that let up.
Kansas has been rolling. They have looked really solid.
I agree. So you and I, along with Nick and Aaron, take the Jayhawks, but Sam and Bill and Doug go with UCF. Number 10, Notre Dame at number 25, Louisville. Come on.
No dissension. Notre Dame across the board. This is going to be another hard-fought battle on the road.
Notre Dame will always play up to the level.
Or down.
Up to the level of the opponent or down to the level of the opponent. So it's always going to be a close game with Notre Dame. Number 24, Fresno State. Are they ripe for an upset going into play Wyoming? Nah.
No.
Everybody's taking Fresno State.
They've had the better schedule.
They're only favored by 5.5 on the road, but TCU at Iowa State, another team from Iowa that cannot score but plays great defense.
They do.
That being said, I think TCU is completely over that whole Colorado hangover.
Yeah, TCU definitely refocused after that.
Yep, favored by 6. Everybody has TCU, the Horned Frogs. Now, finally, the last pick we've got for NCAA football week 6 kind of split a little bit here, but this is one of those typical SEC. We usually try to pick SEC, ACC, Big 12, middle of the road, middle of the pack showdowns because they're so intriguing every year. And this is one of them. This is, of course,
Texas Tech at Baylor. This was not an easy game to pick.
And the point spread reflects that. Texas Tech only favored by 1. I will go with Texas Tech. I kind of looked at the schedule, how they've played out, and I had a feeling that maybe Tech has played a little bit better.
Yeah, these are two teams that usually will beat up on each other alternating years.
It'll be a high-scoring game.
That's why I'm going Baylor at home.
Now, I've got our leader, Bill, with me, but outside of that, you and Sam, Nick and Doug and Aaron are all taking Baylor. So there you go. All right, couple other headlines to discuss before we move on to segment 3. We'll probably do, like we did last week, 2 short segments for segment 3 and segment 4, so we can get all baseball and all NASCAR kind of wrapped up without rushing. So let's talk about the other big headlines of the week right now. Even though there are absolutely no details about it whatsoever, the USFL and the XFL are merging.
And that's all we know.
Well, at least they didn't both collapse.
This is true. This is true.
But yeah, there are absolutely...
That's going to be next year when we're talking about the collapse. After
There are no details
failed
about
merger.
this whatsoever. So that's all we can give you, kids.
Hey, how did they frickin' score the Ryder Cup?
I don't know, but we got beat 16.5 to 11.5. Now, Europe jumped out to a big lead in the Ryder Cup, ended up beating the U.S. They said it was a quote-unquote late surge by the Americans, but...
Too little, too late.
Yeah. I hate to hear, what was it, Ricky Fowler conceded, and that was the key moment that sealed the win. I hate to hear...
You don't concede, you little pipsqueak bitch! God, you are annoying.
You orange-wearing bastard!
You are the most overrated golfer out there. Why are you still on the tour? How do you still have frickin' sponsors?
Well, because he's not with Live Golf, Rory McIlroy probably loves him. Because, of course, I was not going to put in the dumbass segment because I'm sick of putting Rory McIlroy every week when he opens his mouth in the dumbass segment. But again, Rory has to say, well, we basically won because we didn't have any of those Live personalities
distracting the rest of us.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You beak-nose, ugly-ass son of a bitch. How about you win a major and then come back and talk to us about how you can be the spokesperson for golf?
You little sanctimonious
goddamn,
SOB.
even Tiger Woods doesn't talk like this. Even though I know he's your silent partner on all this.
Oh, sorry.
Seriously. Rory McIlroy's got to be the mouthpiece to denigrate Live Golf. This is like...
Has he not read the memo that they have merged?
This would be like, here's an example. We just talked about the USFL and the XFL merging, right? To me, this would almost be like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman every Monday night bringing up, well, the NFL, at least we don't have to deal with the XFL and the USFL anymore. Just shut your pie hole and play golf.
Focus on winning.
God, man, you are just a little bitch. Shut up, Rory.
Well, he has to take away from his poor play on the tour.
He's got to be in the lead for Dumbass of the Year, right?
He's pretty close.
I'm sure we could find a couple other...
there's more out there.
Noteworthy contestants, but that'll do it for segment 2. Next up, breaking news. As we will go to baseball, we will give you, as we tape, an up-to-date picture of what is going on in the first round.
The wild card round.
For the MLB playoffs, we've already got 1 elimination. Possibly 2. So, your Uncle Dave and Uncle Kev will be right back after this quick promo break.
Hi, my name is Kyrie Irving, NBA superstar of the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Boston Celtics. Brooklyn Nets. Dallas Mavericks. And while I may leave a trail of wreckage wherever I go, I still like to spend my off time listening to Sports Frenzy on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Stitcher, Amazon, and Audible. And if you don't like it, it's not my fault. It's your fault. Hell, nothing's ever my fault. Kyrie is never, ever wrong, people.
All right, kids, segment 3, going to be shorter, and then we're going to have a short segment 4. This seems to be what we're going to be comfortable with here for the next 3 or 4 weeks until baseball wraps up.
Yep, it's all good.
And NASCAR. So, baseball update.
Breaking.
We tape here the night of October the 4th. We've already got the American League set.
Yep, it is over. The Rangers eliminated the Rays, and the Twins eliminated the Blue Jays.
So that sets us up for an ALDS with the Rangers at the Orioles to start, and the Twins at the Astros.
Yep.
I know they're your division rival, but I feel good for the Twins because, of course, number one, they ended
an 18-game postseason losing streak.
Going back to 2004.
Ouch.
And for those of us who are older, like your Uncle Dave and I, we remember the glory years of the Twins with Kirby Puckett when they were actually winning World Series.
Yeah.
So, and I also like it in the fact that the Yankees have been making fun of the Twins for years because it would always
They've been their whipping boys.
Yes. It always seemed like they would match up in the playoffs and the Yankees would blow right through them.
Yeah.
Well, guess who's now moving on to the second round, and guess who's still sitting at home?
Suck it, New York.
Now, in the National Leagues, things still need to be decided.
Yep. As we record this, it's the middle of the fifth. The Brewers are up 2-1 on the Diamondbacks, trying to stave off elimination. And the bottom of the second, Phillies and Marlins are tied at 0, with the Phillies hoping to win out tonight.
All right, of course, it wasn't really Black Monday with the managers. It was kind of an odd situation. Gabe Kapler got fired in San Francisco a couple games before the end of the season. Buck Showalter had to announce his own retirement resignation before the last game for the Mets.
Yep. I mean, let's face it. Why would he want to even consider coming back to that train wreck?
Oh, but they've got the new president of baseball operations, David Stearns, who they brought in from the Brewers, and you know what that means.
They're going to try and pull Counsell into the Mets.
Yep. And then, of course, no shocker here, Phil Nevin will not be returning as the Angels manager.
Well, there's a shock, not.
That is a thankless job right there.
Yeah.
The LA Angels.
My God.
You can't depend on Mike Trout, and now you can't depend on Shohei Ohtani, who might be out the door anyway.
Yeah, so who cares about the Angels?
I think Gabe Kapler will get another job. I think he was good enough with the Phillies and then with the Giants. People got to keep in mind with the Giants, they don't spend as much money as you would think
they don't.
They should or they do. Yes, they made a run at Aaron Judge, but again, they
fell short.
Did they take that money and turn around and get a whole bunch of other guys? No,
nope.
They didn't. They let Carlos Rodon go. Smart move.
Smart move, by the way. Move.
But again, Gabe Kapler, to have that team relatively competitive towards the end of the season, and of course won over 100 games last year.
He'll done enough to get another job.
He'll get another job. Showalter has got to be done.
Oh, yeah. He just needs to go to the pine bench off in the distance.
He's not dead, Dave.
I know. I said
the
bench.
Pine bench up in the sky.
No, I didn't say in the sky. In the distance, sitting on a beach somewhere, sipping Mai Tais and selling coconut shells.
And he seems like a really cool guy, too. He does. But he's kind of like the Marty Schottenheimer of baseball.
Yeah, he can get you to the playoffs, but can't put you over the line.
Yep. Well, as much as I did not want to discuss this part in the baseball segment, I think we've got to, with our integrity as top-level podcasters.
Yep, I told you it was coming, and the White Sox finished with 101 losses. 61-101, fourth worst record in baseball.
Yep, one of 4 teams that lost 100 games. 26 games behind the Twins.
Yep. Ugh. What a shit show organization. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon.
Well, here's the philosophical point of discussion. Would you rather have failed as badly as the White Sox did, or would you rather have failed and choked the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season like the Cubs did when they had the wild card in their grasp?
At least
and
you
they
were
fucked it up.
At least the Cubs were relevant.
You're not relevant if you don't make the playoffs. You're not. You are not relevant.
You were there. You are much closer than the White Sox are. Now, unfortunately, we're both stuck with crappy managers.
Yeah. And I had to go through all that again. God forbid I post how the Cubs should never have announced they were bringing back David Ross, because
you could have had Kaplan.
All these Cubs fans, White Sox fans coming out of the woodwork going, I don't understand why you don't like David Ross.
Because he's an idiot manager in game situations.
They are under 500 in his tenure as Cubs manager. They went to the playoffs once his first year, and they lost to the Marlins in 2 games. He is not a good manager. He choked this season away. He couldn't beat the Diamondbacks over the last 3 weeks.
Oh, devil's advocate time. But the players didn't show up. How many critical errors did they commit?
Suzuki was the big one. That was the glaring one.
They've had
when they could have beat the Braves instead of getting swept in Atlanta that last week, which I knew was going to be brutal. That's why I kept saying they have got to play better against the crappy-ass teams they played the week before.
And they couldn't get by them.
No, not with enough wins. They should have won more games against the Rockies. I mean, they did not play well enough against teams they should have beat, especially at home, down the stretch. And then I knew that last week with the Braves and the Brewers.
Into the ground.
Yeah, that was the big thing.
Some of those damn lineups he put out in the final couple weeks, what the hell was he doing? I know you want to rest some guys, but not everybody at once.
No, he's an idiot. He's an idiot. And again, he's a player's coach, so of course, him and Ian Happ are butt buddies. You know, I see them all the time talking on the top step because Ian Happ wants to be a manager someday, I guess.
Oh, God, then why are you talking to Ross?
So the Cubs finish 83-79, second in the NL Central, 9 behind Milwaukee. And God forbid, 3 weeks ago, I thought they had a shot at catching Milwaukee.
They did until they decided to stop playing.
And yes, you blame the players because the players are the ones on the field. That's fine.
But the manager did not put them in a situation to win.
And you bring up the number one point. He burned that bullpen up completely to the point where they could not hold a lead over the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. Alzolay was hurt, could not find anybody else to step up and be a closer. Like you said, costly errors. Everybody's going to remember Suzuki dropping the fly ball in Atlanta, costing them that game. Idiots. Idiots. What next year? What next year is going to make Cubs fans come back? And I'm telling you, I know you have ripped on Cubs fans for years. They'll end up going because they're going to sit in the bleachers and drink beer like a bunch of fucking drunk bums. If you looked at the attendance this year, attendance was down. They barely had any sellouts this year. Barely. Because the fans are starting to realize we had our one glory run culminating with the 2016 title, and now it's the same old bullshit. It's the same old. Ricketts wants to make money by building an entertainment complex. He doesn't give 2 ripped shits about the team.
Yeah, well, that's where Reinsdorf's at right now. He looked at that model and go, well, we want a new stadium, a new area where we can build up this entertainment district to distract everybody from the shit team that he's putting out there.
Ain't it great to be a Chicago sports fan?
God. It's
almost
Chicago
as bad as being a New York sports fan.
God.
I don't know which is worse.
Close.
Which is worse?
Oh, my God. Probably being a New York sports fan because they're so egomaniacal that they think their teams are so damn great are entitled to win titles every single year. Versus Chicago fans who know our teams are shit and we're mired in disappointment.
Yep. We've said this, outside of the Blackhawks and the Bulls, with the Bears, with the Cubs, with the White Sox. We
The
all
Bulls
look at
have
1
been
year.
crap.
We look at one. Well, but the Bulls had the run with
They
Michael
did.
Jordan. We look at the Bears in '85, Cubs in 2016, and
The Sox in 05.
that's all we've got. That's all we've got with those three teams. That's all we've got.
At least the Bulls had their run.
And the Blackhawks,
and the Blackhawks
had three.
had their run.
Yeah.
God, sports suck ass.
Well, you know what? We might be able to get this done in 3. Let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a
Let's
shot.
move to NASCAR. Talladega recap.
Screw you, Bubba Wallace. Idiot.
Can you tell who Dave picked last week? Eric Almirola had the pole. Nice to get a win finally after a lot of time, a lot of weeks without one. Ryan Blaney, glad I played follow the leader with Sam this week. Our Frenzy Cup leader, taking Ryan Blaney, ran a very, very good race, posting 50 points and the win. He moves on to the next round.
Yep. Second place finisher, Kevin Harvick, disqualified. Post-race inspection found that the windshield bolts and brackets were loose. You got to make sure those stay secure. God forbid anything happened on that last lap. That windshield could have gone flying and caused mass damage to somebody in the stands. Debris could have flown in on him.
Yep.
There's a reason that that's such a harsh penalty for safety.
Yep.
They will not appeal.
Yep. And he'd already been eliminated, so in that sense, it's not a big dramatic disqualification.
Nope.
Harris and Burton back with the Wood Brothers in 2024.
Yeah, okay.
Crickets.
Yep. But then the fisticuffs in the Truck Series between Crafton and Sanchez. Crafton gets fined $25,000 for being the aggressor, sucker punching Sanchez. He's fined $5,000 for fighting, but Sanchez's father is suspended from participating for jumping in and getting in the middle of it, like they did with Joey Logano's dad years back. So there you go.
Now, the big news before we get to our picks for playoff race 6 at the Charlotte Roval, the 2024 Cup schedule has been released. Now, we're not going to go through race by race, but we will give you, of course, the highlights, including Indianapolis goes back to the Oval.
Yes, finally.
North Wilkesboro keeps the All-Star race.
Yes. Bristol dumps the dirt. Hallelujah. Atlanta goes back to having the second race of the season like they used to.
And gets a playoff race.
And they
boot.
get the playoff race. A beautiful thing. Get the hell out of the Coliseum for the Clash. We already talked about that. Why the hell does Kansas still have 2 races? Iowa makes its debut. Love it. Without Fontana, they pick up the slack there.
Fontana is under a reconfiguration.
If it ever gets done.
So, yeah, Iowa gets June 16th. That date. You mentioned Atlanta now back in the playoffs. So is Watkins Glen.
Yes.
So we're going to have 2 road courses.
This is fun because your first 3 races, you have the high-speed Atlanta. Then you go to Watkins Glen for the road course, and then you have the high bank short track of Bristol.
That's a nice way to start it.
That is beautiful.
3 different tracks completely to test the abilities of these drivers. Now, of course, with Watkins Glen and Atlanta coming into the playoffs in 2024, Texas is out. Darlington now becomes the last race before you get into the chase, the ultimate race. Daytona moves to the penultimate race, race 25.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of this with the scheduling mess is because of the Olympics. So everything gets pushed back a little bit in the back half of the schedule because of a 2-week break. Kind of hoping along with other people that were discussing this online, that we would have gone back to maybe a Pocono double or somebody doubling up for a weekend. But no, they decide we're just going to push everything back a week.
Whatever.
We'll make it work.
Lame.
An interesting schedule, though. I will say
it is. I kind of like it.
A very interesting schedule. All right, so that being said, let's move on to our picks for the Bank of America 400 for the Charlotte Roval Playoff Race 6 this Sunday, October the 8th. Of course, if you've been following our Frenzy Cup competition, and who hasn't been, you know this was an unprecedented year where 4 of the 8 of us were eliminated from the playoffs. That has never even come close to happening before.
Nope, it's been a shit luck season.
And unfortunately for you, it's continued.
It's continued. I went from in the playoffs to dead last in our group.
So Sam, the elder statesman, is in the lead, but I think I've got him this week. That's why I was so giddy to get my pick in early, is because he had already burned up his Tyler Reddick pick with the road course, the Roval. I am taking Tyler Reddick for Charlotte.
There you go.
Have some company with your pick.
Yes, I am taking Christopher Bell along with Aaron.
So that means you can't catch him.
I can't catch him.
Because he's in the back half, too.
I can
move ahead of
Bill and Nick.
Yes,
so
because
I got to play the numbers game.
And I hope you do, because that would mean Bill has a bad race, and that would mean Sam has a bad race.
As they both take Martin Truex Jr. Nick going with William Byron.
Now, of course, Doug, one of the 4 who made the cut, in 4th place right now, has taken Chase Elliott. Normally, not a bad pick.
Yeah, but he has not come back from that broken leg.
Well, here's some things to remember, too. Number 1, they have reinstituted stage breaks. Again, changing the rules.
Stupid.
Which I hate.
Stupid.
All the road courses this year, we had no stage breaks.
There should be no stage breaks, period, end of conversation.
I completely agree. But now the Roval will have stage breaks. So, see, that's why I think I'm at advantage with Reddick as opposed to a Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott doesn't care about stage points.
No.
Whereas Reddick needs them. He's just a couple points below the cut line.
And it's with Byron and everybody else, Byron still being in the hunt, is Hendrick really going to do anything for Elliott? Right. Are they really going to try and get him a win?
And Larson. Yep. So, a little bit of NBA news. We talked about the massive trade involving Damian Lillard. Well, there is fallout from that trade, as one of the participants who went to Portland has now been shipped out again. Drew Holiday now goes from the Bucks to the Trailblazers to the Celtics. Now the Celtics have a very solid front 4 because, of course, they now have Kristaps Porzingis.
Yep. That East is going to be very interesting between the Bucks and the Celtics.
Yeah. Now, again, the NBA has gotten a little more interesting over the past decade or so, where it's not as cookie-cutter predictable as it used to be. But, yeah, I would say if the Eastern Finals are not the Bucks and the Celtics, I would be shocked.
Then injuries have really made an impact.
Yeah. I would be shocked if it's not the Bucks and the Celtics.
Of course, the Orlando Magic.
The Orlando Magic could step up.
They could. The only thing holding the Celtics
No,
back.
they won't.
Head coach is the only thing that could hold the Celtics back.
Yeah, he's learning on the fly, 2nd year now after the whole Ime Udoka sexual harassment deal. So, would you like to tell the kids right now your Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week, Dave?
I would. My Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week is Tom Willis. Who is Tom Willis, you ask? He is the man who was born with no arms and using his foot has thrown out the ceremonial first pitch in all 30 MLB stadiums.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Sunday, he got the last one for the Angels. So
Very
there
cool.
you go. Good for him.
Definitely
getting to live out his dream.
Definitely a badass of the week. Very good pick. All right, moments of silence. A couple of Northeastern New England sports legends. Of course, knuckleballer Tim Wakefield.
Yeah.
Both very young, by the way. Both die way before their time.
Yeah.
And then
hate to see that for Wakefield, suffering with his brain tumor. Really kept it low key, and it was Schilling who let the cat out of the bag, much to the dismay of the Wakefield's family.
And then Russ Francis, of course, again, somebody from our era, Pro Bowl tight end, played for San Francisco and the New England Patriots, died in a plane crash.
Ugh, yikes.
All right, not going to play dumbass or not, only got 3. I like to have 4 or more.
4 or more is good.
So we probably won't play dumbass or not, either here on the sports edition or the weekend edition, but we still have a little bit of time to run over these and discuss. I'm going to start with the easy ones. Louisiana Tech's Brevin Randall stomping on a UTEP player's neck.
That
Everybody's
is
seen this
completely
by now. Everybody has
inexcusable.
seen this by now.
How he has not gone from the team for an extended period of time.
Well, he is indefinitely suspended right now.
There you go.
But still.
I had not, when I read it, they had not suspended him yet.
Yeah, he is indefinitely suspended.
As he should be. That is inexcusable.
That was kind of a no-brainer. This one is too. Australian tennis player, Mark Pullmans, playing in the Shanghai Masters qualifier match. Just a couple points away from winning the qualifier. I think he would have won. Again, it's qualifier, so would have won $18,000, $19,000. Got mad because he screwed up a volley in the second set tiebreaker. He'd won the first set. In the second set tiebreaker, he got mad. He hit the ball in anger, ends up hitting the chair ump in the face.
Oh! That's never a good move.
Disqualified.
Automatic
disqualification.
Dude. Anger management classes may help.
These tennis players are so angry. So angry.
So angry.
And he didn't mean to. He didn't tee off. He
didn't aim. It was just one of those things where he was pissed, hit the ball, and unfortunately the chair ump was in the way.
Yep.
So why didn't he dive out of the way?
He's on that chair high up, Dave.
So?
I think he would have broken an arm or a collarbone or something.
Whatever.
Umpires are not athletes, too.
They are not. They are so not.
Just ask Angel Hernandez. He's not an umpire or an athlete.
No,
I saw
he's
that
just
this week.
A dumbass.
He was getting yelled at again. Bryce Harper, I think, went after him. Just because he's an absolute... Everybody wants him fired.
Just get rid of his sorry ass. You have enough instances to prove he is a horrible umpire.
All right, finally, this one's a little quirky. But this is kind of indicative of the idiotic world we live in. Going back to September the 27th, Phillies fan Joey Henney felt that he could bring his support pet to the stadium. Only problem is, his support pet was an alligator.
A 5-foot alligator. Good Lord.
And shockingly,
they turned him away.
He was denied. Yeah.
You know, On Patrol Live had a follow-up on this.
Did they really?
They did.
I'm a couple weeks behind, so...
They talked about it. They actually had footage of him out there, world famous Wally, the alligator. And he's out there, people are petting him, and they're asking him, what's up? He goes, oh, the alligator, scratch under his chin, he really likes that. No tape or anything around the mouth. People are petting him, and he's like, watch this. Wally, lay down. Lay down. The alligator puts his front legs out and lays down on command. It's a wild animal. You do not trust an alligator.
I was going to say, you sounded like you were going to a place I was never going to go to.
No.
Oh, you should have been able to go ahead and tickle it.
No, this is insane. The guy has this alligator living in the house with him. He's had it for 7 years, training it like a dog. Ah! My head hurts.
Yeah.
The guy's an idiot, dumbass.
No, there are some animals, and I know there's people out there that love pit bulls. I'm not even messing with a pit bull, let alone a freaking alligator. Oh, well, I've got a pet rattlesnake. He's defanged and, no.
Sorry, I'm not trusting a bear, a wolf, a tiger, a lion. Sorry, no.
I'm just barely getting over the hump with poodles, man. This is the Conquistador Dave Height.
That's the maestro, Kevin Crane.
We wrapped it up in 3. Didn't think we were going to be able to do it, but we did.
Damn, we're good.
We are good. We got everything in, and we were able to discuss it all very, very well in depth. So,
weekend edition. Check us out Saturday morning.
Yes, your Uncle Dave has a very solid movie review of The Expendables 4. We're going to talk about Brian Setzer. Yes, formerly of the Stray Cats. He's still around. His brand new album, along with music from Rival Sons.
Got a book review.
So we got you covered, kids. Your Saturday morning hangover cure.
Gen V.
And the Continental. And, of course, Tacoma FD.
It's all good in the hood.
Salsa. No, seltzer water.
Oh, the seltzer, yes. The flavorless. Hold on.
Yeah.
There you go.
What was the one at the end? The raspberry sriracha. But we're spoiling it. We're spoiling it. So you got to check us out. Yep, check us out on the weekend edition. We love you, kids. Thank you, as always, for checking us out and tuning in.
Tell your friends.
Yep. Check out the Facebook page.
Shoot us a message.
Yep. But we will talk to you again in 7 days. We will wrap up the first round of the baseball playoffs. We'll be well into the second round. Of course, weekly NASCAR, weekly football picks.
We got you covered.
Can't say it better than he does. We will check you out next week, kids. See ya.